From keeping lifelong secrets from family to backstabbing old friends to framing a cop to look like a serial killer, Dexter is filled with betrayal that left us all shocked. And there are way more of these moments than you think. So today I'm going through every major betrayal in Dexter that had fans picking their jaws up off the floor, starting with the oldest one in the whole story, which happens before Dexter ever kills anybody. The first betrayal in the show doesn't belong to Dexter. It belongs to the man he spends his whole life treating like a saint. Before Harry Morgan was anybody's hero, he was a married cop, sleeping with a woman he was also using for information.
It seems that my foster father and my biological mother were having an affair.
His wife was Doris. The other woman was Laura Moser, and she was feeding him details about the people around her, so he was lying at home and putting her in danger every time she fed him information. That work is what got Laura killed. The show never says Harry planned it, and I don't think he did, but it happened because of a choice he made and then buried for decades. Here's the part that matters for everything after. Harry doesn't just cheat on his wife. He turns a woman into a tool, gets her killed, and then builds a reputation as the most honest cop in Miami on top of her body. But the affair isn't the part that comes back to bite everybody. What Harry does next with what's left of Laura's family is the choice that builds an actual villain. Laura had 2 sons, and both were in that shipping container when the police finally opened it. Harry takes one of them home. The other one goes into a mental hospital and stays there. Dexter gets a house, a sister, a father, and an entire rulebook for surviving what he is, and Brian gets a room with a lock on the outside of the door. Then Harry doubles down, because he never tells Dexter about the brother, or Laura, or the affair, or why any of it happened.
After all the lies Harry left me to uncover, I'd love to run away too.
Original Sin makes it worse by showing Brian knew about Harry and Laura, so he wasn't guessing about being skipped over, he watched it happen. That's 2 betrayals inside one decision. Brian gets abandoned by the man who rescued his brother, and Dexter gets robbed of the truth about his own family. And Harry has a word for all of it, which is protection. Keep that word in your head, because everybody in this show who does something unforgivable is about to use it. Harry at least thought he was saving a kid. The next man on this list also carried a badge, and the person he sold out was his own son. Original Sin has one betrayal that beats everything else in it, and it comes from the top of the department. Nikki Spencer goes missing, and Miami Metro throws everything it has at finding whoever took him. Over time, manpower, the whole building. The man standing in front of that room running the search is Captain Aaron Spencer, and he is the reason his son is gone. He points his own people at a kidnapper who was never there. In Original Sin Season 1, Episode 8, Dexter says it out loud to Harry that Spencer might have taken his own kid, and Harry shuts him down and tells him to go find Deborah instead. By the finale, Spencer is exposed and Dexter kills him, so the department never gets the real story through any legal channel. Spencer uses 2 things as camouflage, being a father and being in charge. Nobody looks at the man handing out the assignments, and a teenage Dexter is standing in that building learning that the fastest way to hide something is to run the search for it. That's the world Dexter grew up inside, but the person who takes that lesson the furthest isn't Dexter at all. It's the brother nobody told him he had.
We're blood brothers, through birth and death.
Brian Moser doesn't come to Miami to kill Dexter. He comes to collect him, and the way he does it is by taking Deborah apart first. He builds an entire fake man to do it. Rudy Cooper, a stolen name, and a real job fitting people for prosthetic limbs, dating a Miami Metro detective with no reason on earth to check. In Season 1, Episode 8, he proposes to her, which means the happiest thing that happens to Deb all season is a costume worn by a man who plans to kill her. Around the same stretch, he murders Joe Driscoll, using a body to steer Dexter toward the truth about where he came from without saying it to his face. Then in Season 1, Episode 11, he takes her, and the pretending stops. The reason this one lands harder than most is that Brian didn't have to work for it. Deb trusts fast and loud, and she'd been starving for somebody to pick her since the pilot, so he read that in a week and used it. But none of that was ever about Deborah. Brian set it all up to force Dexter into a choice, and the choice he makes is the one fans still argue about. Brian's offer in that finale is a real offer, and that's what people forget when they file him under crazy older brother. He isn't asking Dexter to kill a stranger for fun, he's offering him blood family, somebody who already knows the worst thing about him and doesn't flinch at it, and the price is Deborah strapped to a table.
You don't ever have to apologize to me, Dexter. Not for who you are, or anything you do.
Dexter picks Deborah, then he kills Brian and stages it as a suicide, so he doesn't just choose a side, he erases the person on the other side and lies about how they died. And there's a read a lot of fans have that holds up. Brian's methods are monstrous, but Dexter is still the one who chose the family Harry built over the brother Harry threw away, and the last thing that ever happens to Brian is getting passed over one more time. Two brothers, and neither one could be loyal to a single person outside that room. The next betrayal is smaller, and it lands on somebody who never had the faintest clue any of this existed. Lila West arrives as the person who's supposed to be keeping him clean, and she ends up being the most dangerous thing in his life. She's his sponsor first, then she's sleeping with him. And back in season 2, Rita finds out about the affair. Then Dexter tries to get away from her, and her response escalates every time he pulls back. She sets her own apartment on fire to drag him in, falsely accuses Angel Batista of rape, tracks Dexter using a device in his car, finds the cabin he's been hiding, kills the man inside it, and then tries to burn Dexter, Aster, and Cody alive. Dexter finally kills her in Paris. The quiet betrayal buried under all that noise is Rita's. She's being lied to about everything that matters, the killing, the cabin, the whole second life. And the only part she's allowed to be angry about is the cheating, which is the one ordinary thing on the list. Lila lit the match at that cabin, though. She didn't build the case. The man chained up inside it had already been destroyed on paper, and it was done by the person he was trying to arrest. James Dokes never trusted Dexter for a second, and he's the only person in the Miami seasons who was right from the very first episode. That hostility turns into his own private investigation. He finds the blood slides. Then, in season 2, episode 9, he tracks Dexter's boat out to a cabin and catches him standing over a body he's already cut up and is about to get rid of, which is the exact point a normal show ends.
That's right, motherfucker. It's over.
Dexter's answer is to knock him out, chain him up in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and build a case that turns Dokes into the Bay Harbor Butcher. To be fair, he does sit there thinking about turning himself in. But the frame job was already built and planted before Lila found that cabin, so the explosion didn't create the lie, it just made sure nobody could unpick it. And this is bigger than one man getting away with something. Dexter takes his entire body count and staples it to another man's name forever, and that name belonged to a cop whose only crime was being right. Everything Dokes had is gone, and from then on, anybody who defends him looks like they're inventing conspiracies. That's what Dexter does to a man who hated him. One season later, somebody actually likes him, and that one goes worse. Miguel Prado is the only person who ever gets Dexter to open the door on purpose, and that's why fans still call this the cleanest betrayal in the show. It starts with a funeral. Miguel's brother Oscar is dead, Dexter is the reason, Miguel has no idea, and the two of them end up hunting the same man. That turns into a real friendship, and then Miguel hands over proof, which nobody else ever does for Dexter. He brings him a shirt soaked in blood and says it's from the night he handled Freebo himself, the one piece of evidence that could put him away for life.
I gave you my shirt linking me to Freebo's death.
In season 3, episode 6, they kill Billy Fleeter together, and from where Dexter is standing, that's everything. A partner who knows what he is and follows the same rules. Then season 3, episode 9 lands, Ellen Wolf turns up dead, nobody asked Dexter, and when he tests that shirt, the blood in it is cow blood. Ellen Wolf wasn't a criminal. Miguel was cleaning off the street. She was a lawyer who kept beating him in court, so the code was never a moral line for him. It was a permission slip with his own name in the blank. And the shirt is worse than the murder, because that was the moment Dexter decided to trust him, and cow blood means there was never a night, never a risk, and never a confession. There's a counter-argument that deserves air, though. Dexter took an ambitious man who already bent the law for a living, taught him how to kill and get away with it, hid the truth about Oscar, and then acted shocked when the student improvised. Miguel wanted permission. The next man Dexter studies doesn't need it from anybody, and he's the one who takes something Dexter never gets back. Arthur Mitchell is the whole reason Dexter goes looking for proof that a killer can keep a family, and he's a con being run on his own house. Church guy, charity guy, decades of murders behind him, wife and kids at home the whole time. Then in season 4, episode 9, Dexter gets inside that house and sees what's really happening with Jonah and Sally, and the blueprint falls apart. Because Arthur isn't a killer who kept a family, he's a killer who's been terrorizing one for years.
I should have fucking killed you when I had the chance.
The betrayal doubles when Arthur works out that the man in his living room calling himself Kyle Butler is Dexter Morgan. He walks into Miami Metro to confirm it, and then he kills Rita, and Dexter kills him without ever knowing it already happened, so Arthur wins the last exchange from a table. Here's the uncomfortable part. Arthur used fatherhood as camouflage, and Dexter was doing the same thing under a fake name in Arthur's living room at the same time to get better at lying to his own family. Rita's death lands on Arthur, and it also lands on the man who wanted to study a serial killer instead of stopping one. Arthur wrecks two families with the same lie. And there's a third person he does it to, who spends that entire season killing for a man who was never going to want her. Christine Hill is the most under-discussed betrayal in the show, and she's running it in two directions at once. She shot Frank Lundy and put a bullet in Deborah. And while the department is trying to solve that, she's dating Joey Quinn, which isn't a relationship, it's a seat next to the investigation. The reason for all of it is Arthur, because Arthur is her father, and she wanted him proud of her. Later that season, he throws her away like she was never anything, and she falls apart. Then she does the one thing nobody expects, tells Deborah the truth to her face, and kills herself right in front of her. Two people get gutted by it.
And then killed herself. In front of me.
Quinn finds out the woman he'd been sleeping with was inside his own case, and Deb finds out the person who took Lundy from her had been sitting at the same tables for months. And the confession is Christine betraying Arthur, which makes her the only character in Season 4 who picks the truth over a father. Quinn gets used here, and it should have taught him something. Instead, he turns around and does the same thing to somebody who trusted him a lot more. A season later, Joey Quinn decides Dexter is worth investigating, and he's right. The problem is how he does it. He hires Stan Liddy, a burnt-out ex-cop with nothing to lose, to follow Dexter around and dig up whatever's there, and he does all of it while he's sleeping with Dexter's sister and telling her nothing. Then Liddy gets ambitious, tries to force Quinn into finishing what they started, and Dexter kills him. Quinn drops the whole thing, partly because of Deborah, and partly because Dexter kept him from being tied to Liddy's death. That's the part that gives him away.
The blood on Quinn's shoe, is it Liddy's?
If it had been about justice, Liddy dying like that would have made him push harder, not walk away. It was never about the truth, and once his personal life needed the investigation gone, it was gone. Everybody who gets near this secret uses it for something. The next one gets closer to Dexter than anybody has, and she's the only person on this list who walks away from him and lives to tell the tale. Lumen Pierce is the one betrayal in this show that doesn't come with a body, and it's the one Dexter never gets over. Look at what he hands her. She learns exactly what he is, and instead of getting rid of her, he brings her in. He kills beside her, going after the men who hurt her, shares the ritual, takes risks that could have ended him, and lets somebody else stand in the one room he has never shared. Then Jordan Chase dies, she tells him her darkness is gone, and she's gone. She didn't want a partner, she wanted a weapon, and the second she stopped needing it, she put it down and left. Every risk he took was for a version of them that only existed while she still had somebody to kill. Fans push back on calling this a betrayal because she keeps his secret for the rest of her life. But staying quiet isn't loyalty, it's just not doing damage, and Dexter didn't gamble everything for silence. He did it because he thought he'd found somebody who could look at all of it and stay. Lumen at least walks away clean. The next woman who finds out what he is wants something very specific, and what she wants is Deborah out of the picture. Hannah McKay does the one thing Dexter told her she could never do, and she does it quietly enough that it almost works. First, she kills Sal Price, a writer who threatened to dig up her past. Then she puts drugs in Deborah's water so Deb blacks out behind the wheel of a moving car, which is an attempt on the life of the one person Dexter had put off limits.
Hannah poisoned Deborah. It's not the future I had wanted with Hannah.
Dexter proves it. And then he hands Deb the evidence from the Price poisoning that puts Hannah in a cell. The one time in the whole series he picks his sister over the woman he loves. Then, Season 8 undoes it. Hannah comes back, Dexter takes her back. All of it's still on the table, and at the end of that season, he hands her his son. That's the part that says the most about him. The woman who tried to kill Deborah ends up raising Deborah's nephew, and Dexter is fine with it, because the way he ranks people has nothing to do with what they've done. Hannah at least went after somebody who could fight back. The next betrayal in this show is aimed at a woman who was right about everything, and the person who carries it out is the last honest cop in the building. Maria Lagerta spends most of the show being politically ruthless, undercutting colleagues and playing the building against itself, and then she's the only person who actually solves it. It starts with a bloodslide at Travis Marshall's crime scene. The closed Bay Harbor butcher case stops adding up, so she reopens it out of loyalty to Dokes, of all people, and she's right about everything she finds.
That was only because of his side gig as the Bay Harbor butcher.
Right about Dokes being innocent, right about Dexter, right enough to arrest him. Dexter's answer is to rearrange evidence until it looks like she framed him. The exact move he pulled on Dokes, just faster and with more practice than the shipping container. Lagerta gets there, tells Deb the truth about her brother, and tells her to put him down. Deb shoots Lagerta instead, then sits down on the floor next to the body. This is the biggest betrayal in the original series, and it isn't close. Two people put an honest investigator in the ground for being right, and one of them was a cop who joined the force because of her father. There's a fair argument on Deb's side that Lagerta had undercut her for years and just threatened her only family, which makes it understandable. Understandable and survivable aren't the same thing. Season 8 is Deb out of the department, wrecked, driving both of them into the water at one point and then pulling Dexter out anyway, because she can't decide between loving him and needing him gone. Deb technically dies later with somebody else's finger on the trigger.
This is Detective Deborah Morgan. I've been shot.
But this is where she actually ends. And the betrayal that makes her death possible comes from the woman who helped write Dexter's rulebook. Dr. Evelyn Vogel helped Harry build the code. She spends season 8 telling Dexter she understands him better than anybody alive, and the whole time, she's hiding the fact that Oliver Saxon is her son. She keeps meeting him in secret while he's dangerous to everyone around her, including Zach Hamilton. She only turns on him after watching proof that he murdered Zach, and once she agrees to help Dexter trap him, Saxon calls that a betrayal and kills her in front of Dexter. So Vogel runs both sides of the same betrayal in one season. She hides a killer because she loves him, exactly like Harry did, and then she gives him up, exactly like Harry never could. The consequence isn't hers, though. Dexter leaves Saxon alive for Deborah to arrest instead of killing him, the one time he tries to do it the way a normal person would, and Saxon shoots Deb on his way out the door. The single time Dexter follows the rules is the time it costs him everything, which is exactly the lesson he did not need to learn.
It's exactly because of what he did to Deb that I went in there.
And what he does with that lesson defines the rest of the franchise, because he decides the kindest thing he can do for the people who love him is disappear. Dexter takes Deborah off life support himself, carries her body out, and drops her into the ocean without telling a single person who loved her. Not her friends, not the department, nobody. Then he fakes his own death, hands Harrison to Hannah, and disappears into Oregon to work as a lumberjack. Later he turns up in a small town in upstate New York as a man named Jim Lindsay, working a shop counter and dating the chief of police, and he lets his son and everybody he ever worked with keep believing he's dead. The way he explains it to himself is that he destroys everyone he loves, so leaving is a favor. It's the same word Harry used, and it does the same thing, which is take the decision away from the people it's about. Because Harrison doesn't experience a sacrifice. He experiences a father who chose to leave, and then he grows up on that, and then he goes looking for the man anyway. A kid who thinks his father picked leaving over him will take attention from absolutely anybody who offers it. And there's a man waiting in that town who noticed. Kurt Caldwell gives Harrison the father he's been looking for, and he does it specifically to kill him.
He's got reach, even from behind bars. He knows I killed his son.
The reason is Matt. Dexter kills Matt Caldwell, and Kurt spends the following weeks lying to an entire town that his son is alive and fine somewhere, which is its own betrayal of everybody who searched for him. Then he finds Harrison, gives him work, gives him money, gives him attention, and builds a real bond with a kid who's starving for one. Then he walks him out to a cabin to kill him the same way he killed the others, and Dexter gets there in time and kills Kurt with Harrison standing right there watching. Kurt is the false mentor in its purest form, offering guidance that's really control, and the horrible joke is that Dexter walks out of that cabin thinking he saved his son, when what he did was show him the table and let him watch how it's done. Which is when the woman Dexter has been lying to for years finally sits down and opens the file. Angela Bishop gets the longest running lie in New Blood pointed straight at her. She's the chief of police, he's the man she's dating, and everything she knows about him is made up. The thread comes loose when Angel Batista mentions that Dexter Morgan had a son named Harrison, and that one detail lets her connect the man in her bed to a dead man in Miami. She ties him to Matt Caldwell going missing, and on her own, she matches the ketamine in the local drug deaths to the Bay Harbor butcher case.
Dexter has a son, Harrison Morgan.
I'm familiar with Harrison Morgan.
Then she arrests him for Matt's murder, and she's right about all of it. Then Dexter, sitting in a cell in the town he hid in for a decade, kills Logan on his way out the door. Logan wasn't a criminal, he was a small-town cop who liked him. Logan is the whole argument about this character, and the fights about him online keep missing it. The code says only killers, Rule 1 says don't get caught, and every time those two rules disagree, Rule 1 wins. Dokes was innocent and got buried under Dexter's crimes, LaGuardia was correct and got set up in a shipping container, and Logan was kind and got walked through on the way to a door. Harrison is the only person in 20 years who says that to his face. He goes through the people who died around his father, Rita, Deborah, all of it, and then shoots him because Dexter tells him to. Angela puts him in a car, drives him out of town, and gets ready to wear the shooting herself. That's a clean ending, and it would have held. Except Dexter doesn't stay dead. And there's one man still asking the question 20 years after he stopped listening to the two people who asked it first. Angel Batista gave Dexter the only uncomplicated friendship in this franchise. 20 years of it. He backed him after Rita died, and he accepted Dokes as the Bay Harbor butcher, which meant accepting that his own friend was a monster instead of accepting that Dexter was. Then, when LaGuardia brought him the case she'd rebuilt, the correct one, the case that would have ended all of this, he told her she was wrong.
Maria, why can't you let this go?
Then he finds out Dexter survived that shooting and is living in New York, and every one of those choices turns into something he has to carry, so he comes after him. What Batista doesn't know is that Dexter has already talked his way into Leon Prater's private club of serial killers under a fake name. So when Batista finally gets close enough to matter, he's confiding in Prater with no idea what Prater actually is, and Prater takes him. So Prater makes Dexter an offer. Kill Batista, and everything is his. Dexter says no and cuts him loose. Batista goes for his throat anyway, and Prater shoots Batista in the back. Dexter tells him the truth while he's bleeding out, that he is the butcher, but he didn't kill Dokes, and he didn't kill Maria, and Batista doesn't care, because all three of them died the same way, standing too close to Dexter Morgan. Then Dexter kills Prater and leaves the gun with Prater's prints on it, so the police find a body and a killer to hang it on. 20 years after the cabin, he frames another dead man. And Prater's Club was the joke version of everything Dexter has wanted since Season 1, a family of killers who swear they'll protect each other, right up until one of them becomes a risk. The same way it went with Brian, with Miguel, and with the rulebook Harry wrote. 3 cops asked the same question in 3 different decades. The first had it stapled to his name and died chained up in a cabin. The second got it right and got shot on a shipping dock. And the third spent 20 years defending the man both trails led back to before dying to prove them right. Dexter didn't pull the trigger. He just constructed the corner Batista died in by roping him into a lifelong web of lies. Maybe one of the biggest betrayals of all. If you want more Dexter breakdowns, there's a video on screen right now. Go check it out.